So today we will move on to the new topic. Okay, today we'll start with the new chapter that is nothing but replacement analysis. Okay, so before moving on to this topic, any doubts, any clarifications in the topic which we have covered in the previous class? So in the last class we have covered incremental rate of return. Okay, the practice numericals relating to incremental of return. Okay, and we have also studied the basic introduction relating to the capital recovery with return or capital recovery cost. Okay, so numericals relating to capital recovery cost, I have put on the slide also. Okay, also I will be teaching the same in the replacement analysis unit. Okay, in this unit we have capital recovery cost in one of the parameter or as a one of the component. So there also we will study. Okay, so I have given the introduction about the capital recovery cost in the previous unit. Okay, in evaluation of alternatives, we will solve the numerical relating to that in this replacement analysis chapter. Okay, so if there are no doubts, then we will move on to this topic, that is replacement analysis. Okay, and this topic is again based on the time value of money itself. Again, it is an application part of the compound interest rates which we have studied in the time value of money. Okay, the 7 different formulas. So here in replacement analysis, we basically use the compound interest equation to make a decision whether to retain the existing machine or to replace the existing machine. So replacement analysis basically compares two alternatives wherein one alternative is already existing or it is in use, and you are going to compare that existing machine with a newer machine which is available in the market. Okay, so you have an old machine and you are going to compare that old machine with that of a newer machine using the components of the interest rates or using the concept of time value of money, that is nothing but the compound interest factors. Okay, so that is what we are going to study here. So the basic components remain the same, only thing is we have to consider the old machine and a newer machine. Okay, some initial steps would be different, but later on the components would be the same. Right, so replacement analysis will be, or replacement of any machine, right, have to be done because either it may incur some more loss or some serious loss in the operational efficiency of that machine. So that is why the company usually go with the replacement, because they have to spend more money in the case of operating cost or in their maintenance activity, right? So that is why the organization always tries to minimize such cost. Okay, so in such case, replacement will be one particular option to save some time, because some amount, because if you have an older machine, right, if you use that particular machine for a period of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, right, so the operational efficiency would be reduced as you increase the number of years or as you use that particular machine for a more number of years. Okay, so the cost associated with it, right, would be more, whereas when you replace that or when you check for other alternatives, if there would be some new alternatives which would require less of labor, right, which would require less of manpower, or any other capital or any resources where the output would be more. Okay, so in such cases the company can prefer that alternative because it helps in saving the amount which otherwise would have been lost if you use the existing machine. So that is why the company always thinks about replacing the asset, right, during its service operation. Okay, so that is why the company will go for the decision of replacing the asset. So here in the case of replacement analysis, as I have said, we will be comparing two alternatives. One is nothing but the older alternative and the other one is nothing but the newer alternative. So older alternative we generally call here as defender. Okay, so defender is nothing but the existing machine which is already available with the organization and they are using it for their day-to-day operation. So it is a old machine. Okay, and a challenger machine which is nothing but a new machine which is available in the market, or if any salesman or any other suppliers are proposing that alternative to the organization. Okay, so that is nothing but a challenger machine. So these two terms, if you find it in the question, so that means defender is nothing but a older machine, challenger is nothing but a newer machine. So these two terms you need to remember. So depending upon these two terms, you have to analyze the question. Okay, so defender is nothing but the older machine and the challenger is nothing but a newer machine. Okay, some of the basic characteristics or features of the replacement analysis or the alternatives in the replacement analysis are: the economic characteristics of the two alternatives are usually dissimilar, right? So the economic cost or economic cash flows, right, of the two alternative would be different. Say for example, you have a older machine which is say 3 years old. Okay, during the time of purchase, its value might be different. Okay, whereas you have a newer technology which is available in today's market, because of more sophisticated one, right, the initial cost might be different. Likewise, the annual operating cost of the previous alternative or the existing alternative would be quite more than compared to the newer one, right, because the newer one is more sophisticated, so it may require less annual operating cost. Okay, so the economic characteristics of two alternative are usually dissimilar. So here when you are going to compare the old machine with the newer machine, the economic characteristics, that is nothing but the cash inflow as well as the cash outflow or investment and receipts will not be equal, right? It will be usually dissimilar, but in some cases there might be some similarities also. In some cases you may find the initial cost to be the same, or any other annual value or any salvage value might be same. Okay, it is not that it should be, but in some cases it might be similar also. Okay, so this is one particular component. Then the duration of cash flow for both the asset will be different. Okay, so for example, old machine you purchased 3 years back, right? So during the time of purchase, the supplier have told you that this machine has a service life of 7 years, right? So 3 years already you have completed, so you are going to compare the alternative for the remaining 4 years. Okay, so we are not going to consider the previous component or the previous years into our calculation when we compare it with the newer machine. So newer machine which has arrived in the market today or in this year, okay, we are not going to compare that newer machine with that of the older machine or the previous 3 years which they have already used for that older machine. Okay, so the time in those two cases would be different. So out of 7 years, 3 years has already been completed, so we have left out with another 4 years. But whereas this newer machine, they might tell you that the service or the service life of that machine is for another 7 years or 8 years. So we have 4 years for the older machine and 7 years for the newer one. Okay. So in that case, the cash flow would be different. or the service life would be different. Okay.
Are you Navi now? Huh? Are you Navi now?
Hello, students, you have to mute your microphones. Okay. Yeah. Then the third is the remaining life of the asset being considered for replacement is usually short, and its future can be estimated with relative certainty. Okay, so it is nothing but you are going to consider only the remaining life of that alternative. The one, the for the older machine, you will be considering only the remaining life. Okay, the previous years which has already been completed, right, will not be taken into consideration. So that is nothing but the last point here. Okay, so these 3 points you need to remember. One is nothing but the economic characteristics, or nothing but the cash flows would be different for each of the alternatives, and the duration of the cash flow for both the asset will be different, the service lives of the alternative, and you are going to consider only the unused value, or you are going to consider the remaining period of the old asset when you compare it with the newer one. So that is nothing but the last point. Okay, so these are some of the characteristics of replacement analysis. The basic reason for replacement is because of reduced performance, so probably the operational efficiency of that component or that particular alternative might be increased, right? So that is why the performance would be reduced. Okay, so because of more maintenance is required, so there would be economical cost associated with it, or probably it may require more number of manpower, more number of space, right? More special handling equipment. Okay, so that is why the company will go for replacement. So you have, because of reduced performance, the company will go for replacement, or because of obsolete. Okay. So that is why the company will go for replacing any of the. Okay. So these are some of the theory part in the case of replacement analysis. Okay. So some of the key points which we need to know when we solve the numerical on replacement analysis. So the first is nothing but the economy of scrapping an efficient old machine lies in the conversion or conservation of effort, energy, material, and time. Okay, so when you are going to scrap the older machine, you have to consider the time, cost, energy, as well as the material, because you need to consider each and every cost associated with that when you are going to compare, or when you are going to replace that existing machine with that of a newer machine. Say for example, if you, without any uh, decision, or without any checking the background of a newer alternative, if you simply go and replace or remove the existing machine, right, then probably if the newer machine does not work as it is desired, then you might incur more cost of again refitting the existing one. Okay, so at that time you need to consider all these cost parameters, and then you have to make a decision of whether to replace the machine or not. So that is nothing but the first component. Okay. Then the second component is very important. Okay, additional expenses incurred for the installation of new machine before operations should be considered as a part of initial cost. As we have seen in one of the numericals relating to annual work, right? We have considered the cost of the land, we have considered the cost of building and machineries, compressor, as a part of initial cost. So likewise here also, all the additional expenses which is required for installing a newer machine, so those costs will be a component for initial cost. Okay, so all the additional components or expenses, such as you may require a facility, or you may require a land, you may require a building, you may require certain additional fixtures, right? Or a concrete foundation where you have to place that particular equipment. Okay, so all these components will be a part of initial cost for the newer machine. So that should be considered in our analysis. Okay, so that is nothing but the second point. So you have to take these points somewhere, okay, in your notes, because this should be considered when we analyze the alternatives. Okay, likewise, when an old machine is replaced, its removal may entail expenses which must be deducted from the amount received to arrive at a net salvage value. So if the company decides to replace the existing machine with that of a newer one, so at that time the company have to spend some more expense or some cost to remove that fixtures or to remove that alternative from the foundation or from the fixtures, right? In that case, some cost associated with that should be deducted from the salvage value to arrive at a net salvage value. Salvage value is what? Actually, the resale value of the equipment. So from the resale value, you are going to deduct the cost which is spent on removing the existing machine. Okay, so that will be the net salvage value. So that also should be considered in calculating or in analyzing the alternative, especially the older machine, for the older machine. Okay, so these 3 points you need to remember, but the second and the third is very important, because that those 2 points we will be considering in the analysis. Okay, please copy down these 2 points, the second and the third. So any doubts till now? Students, any doubts?
No, sir.
Right. So I will change the slide. Okay, there are some terminologies which we need to learn along with their 2 concepts which we have learned in the previous slide. Okay, one is nothing but the sunk cost. Now, what is sunk cost? Any idea? Students, any idea? Have you heard about this sunk cost?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So sunk cost is nothing but the cost which has been incurred earlier, right? And which we cannot recover, and we are not going to even consider those component or cost in our analysis. Okay. Say for example, you have purchased an equipment for 10,000 rupees. Okay. It has a service life of 5 years. Now you have used that equipment for 2 years or 3 years. Okay, and at that time you find that you have a newer technology available in the market. Okay, so that has some cost of say 8,000 or say 15,000, because it is a more sophisticated model. So in that case, when you analyze, you will be considering only the remaining period for the existing machine. Okay, At that time, what will happen is the 2 years which you have already used, right? The 2 years which you have already considered and which you have used. Okay, so those 2 years have become the sunk or the sunk cost. So here in this example, you can find, suppose a machine acquired for $50,000 3 years ago has a book value of 20,000. Okay, the 30,000 is nothing but the sunk cost that does not affect a future decision involving its replacement. So that is nothing but, suppose you have a machine which you acquired 3 years ago. At that time, its cost was $50,000. Okay, but after depreciation, according to the book of accounts, as on today, your value is only 20,000. Okay, so 50,000 was the value of asset 3 years ago. Because of depreciation, right? Its book value into the book of accounts, its value is only 20,000. So the remaining 30,000 which you have lost, okay, which we call here as a sunk cost, does not affect any future decision. So what they are trying to say is that 30,000 which is lost, or the difference in value, will not be considered in our analysis. So it has already been lost and we have closed that account. We are not going to consider it again for our future account. So future expenses, for the future or for our analysis, we only consider the cost and the revenue factors for the remaining service life. The one which has already been completed will not be taken into consideration. Okay, so that is nothing but the sunk cost. So sunk costs are the cost which has already been incurred and which we are not going to take in our analysis. Okay, so that is nothing but the sunk cost. Okay, so sunk cost is nothing but the present book value minus the market value. Now, book value is nothing but every year the organization will estimate the value of asset and they will write that value in the book of account. So that is nothing but the book value. Whereas in the case of market value, probably the same equipment, its value in the market. Okay, so that is nothing but the market value. Okay, so book value is nothing but the value of the asset in the book of accounts of the organization. Market value is nothing but the value of that equipment in the market. Okay, so that difference will give you the sunk cost. Sunk cost is nothing but the cost which has already been incurred and we are not going to take that amount or account or the cost into our analysis when you calculate the present worth, annual worth, or any future worth. Right. Then economic life is nothing but the service life of the alternative. Okay, we have studied many numericals, or we have solved many numericals by considering the service life. Right, it is nothing but the life of the asset or the useful life of a particular alternative. Okay, estimating economic life in an organization is very useful. So that is nothing but the service life. Okay, unused value. Unused value is nothing but the value of the equipment which has not been used. Say for example, you have purchased a machine 3 years ago. At that time, it was having a service life of say 6 years. So since you have already completed 3 years, so the 3 years has become sunk. Now the remaining 3 years, right? Out of 6 years, 3 years already completed. The remaining 3 years we call it as unused value. And for the remaining 3 years, we are going to analyze, or we are going to take the decision based upon the unused value. So that means nothing but the remaining 3 years or 4 years, which is still to continue, right, with that alternative for another 4 years or 5 years. So those are nothing but unused value. The value which has not been utilized, or the alternative service life which has not been utilized. So that is nothing but the unused value. Okay, so these are three components which you need to remember, and this will again repeat when we solve some numericals. Okay, so any doubts here? Students, any doubts?
Sir, could you explain the formula for sunk cost again? Like what exactly does?
Sunk cost is nothing but the present book value. Present book value is nothing but every year the organization will measure the value of asset. Okay, so that value, which we generally call as book value, which we write it in the book of accounts when you calculate the balance sheet. Okay. Hello. Students, please mute yourself because I can see, I can hear some of the sounds. So present book value is nothing but every year the value of asset will be measured by the organization, and the same value will be entered in the book of accounts where you have balance sheets. Okay, in the balance sheets. So that is nothing but the book value. But market value is nothing but the value of that particular asset which is available in the market. Okay, the value of that asset in the market is nothing but the market value. Okay, it can be more or it can be less. Okay,
Okay,
so
sir.
that difference is called as the sunk cost.
Got it, sir.
Yeah, right. So whether you are taking down these terminologies, so if you are taking down the terminologies, that I can give you some 2 or 3 minutes to copy down. Okay, else I will go on to the next slide. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. Right. So there are different methods when it comes to your syllabus. Okay, according to replacement analysis, you have 4 different methods, but according to your syllabus, we'll be considering only 3 methods. Okay, that is nothing but outsider's point of view, cash flow approach for equal life, and economic life of an asset. So the third part or the third method, that is the policy of including sunk cost in replacement analysis. So that method is not there for your syllabus. Okay, only outsider's point of view, cash flow approach for equal life, and economic life of an asset is there for your syllabus. So 1, 2, and 4 methods are there for your syllabus. The third method is not there. Okay, so we'll study each and every component excluding the third one. Okay, so I will give you the brief introduction about the outsider's cash flow approach and economic life. Okay, so outsider's point of view, in the sense you are going to consider a outsider and you are going to analyze the cash flow according to that outsider or a third party or a consultant. Okay, so that is nothing but outsider's point of view. Cash flow approach for equal life. So cash flow approach, in the sense you will be having a supplier and a manufacturer, or a person or an organization where they want to replace their asset, and a salesman where who is offering a new machine to that organization. Okay, so the transaction happening between them is nothing but a cash flow approach. Policy of including sunk cost is nothing but you are going to consider the sunk cost, right, into the analysis. Okay, like the cost which has already been recovered or the cost which has already been spent and what we have to do for recovering them. Okay, so that will be in policy of including sunk cost, which is not there for your syllabus. And economic life of an asset, in the sense you are going to find out the time period or the year at which the company can decide of replacing the machine. Okay, so economic life of an asset will tell you the time or the year at which the company can decide of replacing the machine. So this economic life of an asset will be calculated based on annual operating cost and the capital recovery cost. Okay, so these two components we need to calculate for calculating the economic life of an asset. Okay, so these are nothing but the methods which we have to study. Okay, that is except the third one, rest all the three, right, are there for your syllabus. Right. So please copy down this numerical. So here we don't have to learn any of the formulas. Formulas is again the time value of money. Okay. So that formula only we will be using it. But only thing is you need to consider, say for example, if it is a building, if you have cost associated with the value of the land, any other equipment cost, so that should be taken as an initial cost, as well as for the older machine during the time of deassembling the components. Okay, when you are going to replace it, the cost associated with it will be deducted from the salvage value to arrive at the net salvage value. So those two components you need to consider. But we are not going to learn any new formulas here in the case of replacement, in the case of outsiders or insiders point of view. Okay, even economic life, we are not going to study new formula, but we need to study one particular formula which is nothing but economic uniform annual cost. I will tell you that particular formula when you reach to that stage. Please copy down the question. company purchased Machine X a year ago for rupees 8,500 with the following characteristics. Estimated life is 6 years. Salvage value is rupees 1,000. Operating expenses is rupees 8,000 per year. At the end of first year, a salesman offers machine Y for rupees 11,500, which has estimated life of 5 years, salvage value of 1,500, and an annual operating cost of 5,500 per year due to improvement. The salesman offers rupees 3,500 for machine X if machine Y is purchased. So this appears low to the company, but it is the best offer received elsewhere. Assume an interest rate of 8% and determine the best course of action by taking outsider's point of view. Okay, so this is the question. Okay, so here in this question, you have a machine X which is purchased last year. Okay, so at that time, during the time of purchase of machine X, it has a service life of 6 years, salvage value of 1,000 at the end of 6th year, and annual operating cost per year it was 8,000 rupees. Okay, so after 1 year, okay, in the current year, a salesman is offering machine Y with a value of 11,500 and a service life of 5 years. Okay, and it has got the newer machine Y has got a salvage value of rupees 1,500 and an annual operating cost of 5,500 rupees due to its improvement. Okay, so you have a older machine and a newer machine. But the salesman is also offering one more proposal that if the company goes for machine Y, right? If the company buys a new machine, then the salesman will purchase the existing machine for 3,500. Okay, so that one condition they have given. Okay, so salesman will purchase the existing machine for 3,500 if the company goes for the replacement and buys a new machine. Okay, from that supplier. This appears low to the company, but it is the best offer received elsewhere. So it is appearing low to the organization or the company, but considering the other market, that is the best offer which is given by the salesman. So assuming the interest rate of 8% and determine the best course of action by taking outsiders point of. So we have to now suggest whether the organization should retain the existing machine, that is the machine X, or whether the company or the organization have to go with machine Y. Okay, so that is our task. Okay, so we'll solve it. So have you taken down the question?
Yes, sir.
There was some connectivity problems, so I'll share the screen again. Students, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So this was the numerical which we were discussing. Okay, so here in this case you have machine X, which is a older machine or a defender machine. Okay, and for that you have the initial cost, estimated life, salvage value, operating cost. Okay, and which you are going to compare it with the challenger machine, that is machine Y. It has a initial cost of 11,500. It has a invest estimated life of 5 years, salvage value of 4,500, annual operating cost of 5,500 per year. Okay. Along with that, the salesman will give 3,500 for buying the machine X. Okay. For machine X, it is nothing but the older machine. If the company purchases the newer machine Y. Okay. So we have to take the interest rate as 8%, and we have to suggest the organization whether to purchase whether to go with the newer machine or whether to continue using the existing one. Okay. By considering the outsider's point of view. So in the case of outsider's point of view, okay, you have a organization. Okay, you have an organization or a company, and you have a supplier or a salesman. Okay, along with that you have a third party vendor, or he can be a consultant. Okay, so there are three entities here. Okay. So in the case of outsider's point of view, outsider's point of view, you have a organization or a company, you have a supplier or a salesman, or you have a third party vendor or a consultant. So you are going to analyze from the third party vendor or a consultant. Okay, earlier all the numericals which we have solved have considered only these two components, right? That is the organization and a supplier, or a organization and a bank, or a financial institution which gives them the loan, okay, for purchasing the asset or for their day-to-day operation. So that we have studied, right? Here in the case of outsiders point of view, other than the organization and the salesman or supplier, we have to involve this third party vendor, and we have to analyze the case from this person, not from the point of organization or from the supplier, right? We have to analyze the question from the third party. Okay, so here when it comes to the numerical machine X, okay, so machine X, which is nothing but the old machine. Okay, old machine During the time of purchase, the organization paid 8,500. It has got an estimated life of 6 years, salvage value of 1,000 and annual operating cost of 8,000. Okay. So at the end of first year, so the now it is nothing but 1 year has already been completed. Okay. So 1 year has already been completed. Now we have left out with the 5 year time period. Okay. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay. So we have left out with the 5 years. So this is nothing but the current year, and we have another 5 years to go for the machine X. Okay. Whereas machine Y, simultaneously I will write machine Y, which is nothing but a new machine. Okay. So new machine, all the economic factors are quite direct. Okay, because it is a new machine and it's has not been used for any of the years, so it has got a service life of 5 years. Okay, you have the annual operating cost of 11,500. You have a salvage value of 1,500. Okay, and you have operating cost of 5,500 here. Okay, so this is quite direct. Interest rate they have given was 8%. Fine. So now 1 year has already been completed. Okay, so you have annual operating cost of 8,000 for this machine. That is the existing machine or machine X. Okay, it is 8,000. You have a salvage value of 1,000 here. Okay, now according to the third party, okay, according to the third party, we have to analyze. So when I tell analyze, so it means that we have to consider the transactions of organization and supplier by involving this third party consultant, as if this consultant or third party vendor is going to purchase. Okay, so when I say analyzing it from the point of outsider, so at that time our cash flow should be drawn by considering the external entity or this third party consultant, as if this person or the consultant is going to buy the alternative. Okay, so in that case, for machine Y, the economic parameter is pretty clear, right? So the salesman will tell to this consultant that you give me 11,500, okay, and you purchase the machine. So it is quite simple. But when it comes to machine X, how he will analyze, how the consultant will analyze, what he will do? Any guesses here?
Excuse me, sir. I had a question.
Yes, tell me.
For machine X, isn't it supposed to be 6 years? They've given the estimated life as 6 years for machine 6.
Correct. Estimated life is 6 years.
The cash
But
flow you
but 1 year has already been completed. You read the next sentence. At the end of first year. At the end of first year, a salesman offers machine Y for 11,500. So that means, okay, not that. You just come back to the first sentence of the question. A company purchased machine X a year ago. That means last year it was purchased. Okay, so it was
Right.
purchased last year. At that time, it was having a service life of 6 years. Okay, now after 1 year, a salesman is offering a new machine Y, which is having 11,500. Okay, so that means out of 6 years, 1 year has already been completed, and now the company is going for an analysis whether to go with the newer machine because a proposal has come in regarding a new machine, or whether to continue using the existing machine. So they are in dilemma now. Okay, so that is why we have to consider only the remaining part of the service life, since 1 year has already been completed. Hope you have
Sir,
understood.
should we include 3,500 for machine X?
Yeah, that is what. So where to for machine X? How? Why? The answer is correct. Why?
So because like they have to pay it to the company, right?
They have to pay to the company, right? So that is why, whether it will be an inflow or outflow, if they are paying it to the company, whether it will be an inflow or outflow, who will be paying it to the company?
For the third party, it will be outflow, right?
Third party to be
Out.
the outflow. So to draw it here, I have to write it as an upward arrow, or here I have to write it as an upward arrow. The answer is correct. I have to consider 3,500. But where I have to consider it? Whether it I have to consider it at the 0th year, or whether I have to consider it here, or whether I have to consider for the newer machine again. Don't worry if it is wrong. The answer which you have told is correct. I just wanted
We
the
have to take it
justification.
when we so
Hello?
we'll have to take it at the 0th year when we buy the
Can
new
you please,
machine
hello,
Y.
can you please repeat it? I didn't hear. The voice is getting disconnected.
So, so we'll have to include it on the 0th year when we buy the new machine Y.
Okay, so that means here you have to buy.
Oh, yes, sir.
So that means I have to draw again a downward arrow or an upward arrow.
So upward.
Upward arrow. So if I draw an upward arrow, so that means the company will be purchasing machine Y, and the supplier is giving the organization the amount. So that does not become our consultant point of view, no? So the answer which you have told is our normal or the general cash flow diagram which we have learned till now. Till now in the sense till the previous class, wherein we consider the transactions happening between the individual and the bank, or organization with the bank or any other financial institution, or it can be a supplier. Okay, so here I will again clarify. Later on, again I will ask the same question. Here, the transaction has been given for organization and a supplier. Okay, but they have told to analyze these transactions from the point of a third party vendor or a consultant. So that means one more person or a middleman is there along with these two components or the players. Okay, now we have to draw the cash flow diagram according to this third party or the consultant, as if the consultant or the third party is going to buy the alternative. Okay, so this party will buy as if he is buying it. So now when I draw the cash flow according to him for machine Y, I don't have any problem because it is a brand new machine available in the market and supplier is already there to ship that components to me. So I will be the consultant now. Okay. So what I will do, I can pay 11,500 for this machine and I can go with the machine Y. Right. But for how much amount I have to pay for machine X, because I have to decide. There are two players, or the supplier and the company has come to me asking for the purchase. So whether I have to purchase a newer machine or whether to purchase with the existing machine. So if I am going to purchase a older machine, to which amount I have to pay or for what price I have to buy?
Sir, the salvage value of machine X will be changed to 3500.
Salvage value of machine X. So salvage value will come at a later stage. Salvage value will get at the end of the service life. Now it is only the first year end, right? Where we have completed only 1 year of the existing machine. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So at that time, salvage value will not come into our picture. Salvage value we have to consider for our analysis, but it will not, for the time being, it will not be considered in our picture. So what price I am going to buy as a consultant? So one student told that I will be paying the market value, that is 3,500. So this value I will attach here, 3,500. Okay, and then I will analyze. So hope you have understood the concept. Okay, so I will be, again I will explain. I am the consultant. Okay, so there are two entities or two participants with me. Okay, one is nothing but the supplier with the brand new machine, which has all the economic, which has clear economic cash flows or economic factors, and an organization wherein they have existing machine or an old machine which they have used for 1 year. Okay, so if I am the consultant, if I am going to go with the machine Y with the salesman, so he has all the data clear. So I have to just pay him 11,500 and pay the equipment Y. Okay, but I have to check with the company also, because that might also give me a better return, right? I cannot directly go with machine Y because it is brand new. Probably machine X would be giving me better returns also. That can also be there. So for what price I have to buy? So what I will do as a consultant, I will check its market value. Okay, I will check its value in the market. So here in this statement, they have, here in this question, they have given that its market value, or the salesman offer 3,500 for machine X. So that value I consider it to be the market value. Okay, probably that is the best value which the salesman give. We make an assumption that probably the salesman might have given 3,500 or ready to give 3,500 considering the market value of it. Okay, so what I will do, I may buy for 3,500 the existing machine. Okay, so that is why I have given 3,500 here. Any doubts here, students? Students, any doubts here?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, for example, in the first case, we draw the normal cash flow like 11,000, 8,500 the cost, initial cost, and convert
Mhm.
each value into the equal annuity factor and compare on the annual basis. Can we do according to that?
No, no, no. Here you cannot do. If see one thing, if you do that, what will happen is you will be considering again the sunk cost also. Here 1 year has already been completed, right? All the problems which we have solved from the second unit up to the last class, if you remember, we have considered the initial cost as time zero, and we have considered annual operating cost, salvage value, and calculated your present, future, or annual values. Correct? Here, the 8,500 is already been paid in the last year during the time of purchase. Now, 1 year has already been passed. So again, you cannot bring that into our analysis because that has already been paid and its account has been closed now.
Okay, sir.
Okay, I've understood.
Yes.
Right. So at that time, 8,500 will not come to our picture because its account is closed. Now I have to go with the remaining economic factors. So since a consultant will be buying, okay, so we have to analyze it from the point of that consultant. According to you, if we calculate it on an annual work also, one thing you will be considering the sunk cost. Okay, so that we are not going to consider because I have told you in the feature also, because we will be considering for only the unused value, okay, for which the service lives are yet to complete or yet to reach. Okay, so that value will be considered. Okay, and other than that, we have to consider from the point of a consultant. Okay, as if the consultant or a third party vendor is going to buy the equipment. Okay, so the consultant will not pay 8,500 for the machine, correct? Consultant will not be paying 8,500 for the machine after 1 year again, right? Because he is not a foolish, right? He is not a fool to pay 8,500 again after 1 year. After 1 year, anyhow the technology's value will be reduced, right? The depreciation, because of depreciation, the value of the asset will reduce. So no one will pay at the given price or at the stated initial price, right? So what he will do, the consultant will identify the value or search for the market value of that machine. So he is that okay, the supplier has told 3,500 for the existing machine if they purchase machine wide. So that means probably that salesmen have told or salesmen have considered the existing market condition and arrived at 3,500. Okay. So what the consultant will do, he will pay 3,500 for the existing machine. So that is why 3,500 as the cost for the consultant. Okay. So any questions here? Students, any doubts? Only this is the basic problem here or the confusion. Okay, we rest all is the same. Once you do this, once you get this value, then rest all things will be same where we calculate annual work for both the machines. And then depending upon the value, we arrive at a final conclusion. Okay, so always remember, in the case of outsider's point of view, the market value will be the initial cost for the existing machine. Okay, so this you need to remember. Okay, so I'll write it here. Okay, so in outsider's point of view, market value will be the existing will be the not existing initial cost of the defender machine. Okay, so I have written it here. So market value will be the initial cost of the defender machine or the old machine. Okay, so this one component, if you remember, then you can easily solve it. Okay, but how this component will be applicable? So it is nothing but the consultant is buying the asset. Okay, so that is why this statement can be used. Okay, now you calculate it on an annual basis. So 3,500 is the initial cost. So 3,500 we have to distribute on an annual basis. So it will be A by P interest rate for a period of 5 years. Okay, then you have 8,000, which is already an annual operating cost. So no need to multiply it with any of the interest factor. Then you have the salvage value of 1,000 into A by F interest rate for a period of 5. So this is one annual worth for the existing machine. Okay, so some value. Similarly, you have 11,500 A by P interest rate for a period of 5 years. So this you will be converting on an annual scale, plus 5,500. So here it is minus, not plus. Okay. So 5,500 is already on an annual scale. No need to again multiply it with interest factor, minus 1,000. So it will be A by F interest rate for a period of 5. Okay, substituting the values, you will get some answer. Then you decide which is the better option. Okay, so I have done it here. So we will be having 8,706.15 and here you will be having 8,124.6. Okay, so since it is cost dominated, so machine B is the better choice, or machine not B, is machine Y. Okay, machine Y is the better choice. Any confusion here, students? Students, any confusion here? Any doubts? Okay, so here in this question, when it comes to outsider's point of view, the initial cost of the defender machine or the older machine will always be the market value. If in the question, if it was mentioned like 1 year has already completed, 2 years has already completed, so at that time, after 2 years, what is its market value? So that will be the initial cost of the existing machine. Okay, so that one point you need to remember in the case of outsiders point of view. Okay, so any doubts here? So hope you are getting the same answer. Students, whether you are getting the same answer?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Right. So then we will move on to the next slide. So cash flow approach, I will just give the introduction. Okay, we'll solve the same problem again. So in the case of cash flow approach, it is basically used when you have the equal service life. Okay, so this approach is based on the fact that if the challenger is selected, then the defender's market value will be a cash inflow to the challenger. Okay, say considering the same numerical, what we have to do is when we draw the cash flow, we have to go with this first condition. If the challenger is selected, then the present market value will be a cash inflow to the challenger. So that means if the company goes with machine Y, okay, then the salesman will give 3,500 for the existing machine. So in that case, how much amount the organization has to pay? So it is 11,500 minus 3,500. So you will be drawing an arrow here. So that much amount the company will pay to buy Y. Okay. So that is the first condition here. So we have to assume that the organization will buy the newer machine. So at that time, since the salesman will give 3,500, I will utilize that 3,500 in buying the asset. So I just have to pay the difference, 11,500 minus 3,500. So that difference amount I need to pay. So this is pretty simple. Okay, that is the first. Alternatively, if the defender is selected, there is no actual expenditure of the cash to the organization. Okay, if the company decides to use that, okay, if the company does not want to go with the replacement, okay, then the cash flow would be quite direct, right? So no initial investment, but it has to be used for another 5 years. Okay, so we have to consider initial investment as zero and see check for the 5 year time period. It's annual. Okay, so depending upon that, we have to decide. Okay, so hence, defender's first cost is taken as zero, and the market value of the defender is subtracted from the challenger's first cost. So in the cash flow approach, you will be considering these two conditions. One is nothing but if the company decides to replace the machine, okay, so at that time the supplier will give you, or the salesman will give you 3,500, and using that 3,500 I will purchase the newer machine. So at that time 3,500 will be the cash inflow and 11,500 will be the cash outflow for the newer machine. Okay, accordingly, if the company wants to retain the existing machine and I don't want to go with the newer machine, okay, so at that time the cash flow for X would be without the initial investment. Okay, so without the initial investment, the company will use for the remaining service life. Okay, so those are nothing but the two conditions. Okay, and this cash flow approach is our normal approach which we have done for all the previous numerical except outsiders. Okay, the same way where we analyze it from the point of a organization. Okay, according to the organization perspective, we are drawing the cash flow. But whereas in the case of outsiders, we'll be considering from the point of third party or a vendor or a consultant. Okay, so any doubts here, students? So we'll solve the same problem again in the next class. Okay, for the cash flow approach. Then I will tell you why we have to use cash flow approach for equal life. Why not we use outsider's point of view for equal life? Okay. So that justification also I will tell you in the next class along with economic life of an asset. So students, any doubts, any clarifications here?
Sir, here we have selected the challenger, right?
Yes, for the previous numerical, we have selected the challenger.
Thank you.
So by mistake, I have mistakenly because of my mistake, I have written it as machine B. It is actually machine X and machine Y. Okay, so Y is nothing but the challenger machine. Okay, so it's a mistake here. Okay, so I have considered A and B as the machine or the alternative. Change it to Y. so challenger is selected. So any doubts here? Fine. So then we will stop it here. So today we have done with